Good morning, everyone. This is Deborah Pruitt. How are you? I'm going to say good morning and just let you know who a few of the folks who are here, everybody kind of joins over the next few minutes, just so that you all know what room you're in and hopefully encourage a little more conversation if you want to. Adrian, hi to you from Alameda County. Barbara Weaver here from Tehama. Good morning. Ben Wilshire from Tulare. Good morning to you. Erica from Riverside, right? Good morning. And Heather, Solano County. Hi, Dolores from Santa Barbara. Laura Ingalls from Shasta County, and Rosanna Anderson from San Mateo. So that's who is here so far. You're all muted right now, but I do want to remind you that as I go through some of the tips and reminders and information this morning, that you can raise your hand at any time. I'll get my cursor in the right place here. And then I can call on you, so I can unmute you and you can talk to everyone or ask your question, and it's really nice to have some conversation, so I invite you and encourage you to do that. And you can always put your question in the question panel, and I will be paying attention to that. It's only me on the webinar this morning. Only had a few things that I thought were important to share, and this is the last call, so it's really, I wanted a chance to see if there were any questions from you, anything that we need to be sure and discuss. So I'm going to go ahead and, that's me. You all know me. I know most of you, at least I've met you. I just wanted to mention again, congratulations to the winners of the first round of the FAFSA challenge, the priority registration, the priority deadline, March 2nd. So Yuba County and Sonoma County were the very small counties. We ended up dividing that category because we had so many that actually fell into that group. There was a chance to acknowledge more of the counties that achieved 100% of their foster youth getting their FAFSA done, and also gave a chance to spread the news more widely. And then Fresno County was the medium-sized county, and San Diego the large county that won that round. So to remind you, we are looking for stories of things you are doing, anything that you have, great stories about the students or even what you're doing internally, things that have happened as a result of the FAFSA challenge. We still want to collect those so that we can continue to spread the good news and recognize your accomplishments. So be sure and send those to me if you have a good story to share. And then we got a final round here, so it's not over yet, but we're down to the wire. And but we have extended the deadline of the final report. We recognize that we scheduled our statewide workshop on May 30th, and the report is due on May 31st. And then Little Birdie told me that you all are vigorously working on your RFA. And so we just want to give you a little more time, and also a little more time to make sure CSAC data is in. So we extended the deadline to June 8th at 5 p.m. Woohoo, makes that a little bit easier, I hope. Gives you a little more breathing space. And we're asking, that we're asking for you to tell us in the blue section of this report, to tell us where you're getting the information on who's completed the FAFSA, and also then just this total foster youth seniors that you've had enrolled in at least 30 days, and then the total number who've completed the FAFSA. I don't know if there's anyone on the call where this is the case, but even if you did not submit a report in March and you do submit one now and you provide all this information to us, we will include you in this round. So notice the tab down here at the bottom. It's just the June 8 completion report that we need. And we also need, this is when we must have the sheet that includes your students for the scholarship drawing. So here's a screenshot of that. We don't want to know who they are. You decide your anonymized identifier. It can be Solano 1, Solano 2, whatever designation you want to make, so that we know what county it is and you know which student it is. And if your student is drawn, when we do the drawing in June, we will contact you. Let me make a note here that this is the last worksheet in this workbook that we sent out and that I just sent a couple of copies over the last week, I think, in the reminder emails to you, because it's been updated with the June 8th date. But you can use the old one if you want to continue with that information that you have already. So to remind you that we'll do another round of winners for the county coordinators, for you all, and we'll be doing that, working that out in June, and then we're going to do a public announcement and celebration of that at the J-Bay Book Fund fundraiser that we hold in Sacramento on August 8th. We thought that would be a fun time to make the announcement, maybe draw a little publicity, and we'll be sending more details when we get all of that worked out. And of course, we'll also send out emails and press releases about the winners, and we'll work with you, those of you who do win that round of awards, to get some publicity in your county, because we want you to get recognition and the students to get recognition and also more awareness. And then as I said, the student scholarships will be, the drawings will happen in June, and then we'll contact you, let you know who the winners are so that you can contact the students, and we'll provide the specific procedures for getting the checks dispersed. But just to mention that we will be requiring some form of verification of enrollment at the college before we send the check to the students. So no worries, we'll send all those details later, but I just want to give you that heads up, and that we are paying attention to the details, and we just don't have them all prepared to give you yet. So another reminder that I know this is really the last days, and I'm sure everyone feels busy at the end of the semester, but there still are a few days to identify those students who still need a Chafee application, make sure that they get that submitted. It does matter when they get it in. It will help get them in a higher priority ranking. The student web grants account, I'm gonna mention a couple ways in which I've just recently learned how valuable that can be for the students, and also help them make sure that they have their college application done, and then all of those matriculation steps, the guidance and on the assessment process, getting placed well, they're getting counseling to get their education plan in place, and the overall enrollment. So I'm sorry, I just saw your question. Oh, Dolores, you said you didn't see the screenshot. Let me unmute you. Was that on the, let me get to attendees. Was that on the report that you didn't see? I'm having trouble getting this thing out here. Unmute Dolores. There it goes. Dolores, can you say, was that the screenshot on the report that you couldn't see?
Yeah, I don't know if you've changed slides, but I only see FAFSA challenge technical assistance. Are you going through slides right now?
I am. I wonder, is there anyone else who's not seeing the slides? You're not seeing it either? Okay, let me see what's going on. Boy, I'm flipping through.
There.
No, I'm sorry, I forgot to flip the button. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Glad you let me know. Okay, I'm going to mute again so you don't have to worry about noise. Let me go back and point out those. Sorry about that, folks. So just to remind you, this is the report that we want June 8th at 5 p.m. This is the requesting you to tell us how you're getting your information, if it's all web grants or if there are verbal reports and so forth. And then the total students that have completed. And then the report for the students for the scholarship drawing is the simple list of the anonymized identifiers that you create for your identification, but make sure we know what county it is, because we're going to put them all into a pool for a drawing. So make sure that name is in there so we can contact you. Okay, sorry about this confusion. And I think there was one more question. Was it, Barbara, you had something here? In the process of writing the RSA budget. Oh, I got it. I got it in an email. I'm going to send that to you. She's asking about what activities we're going to have for the next year, and I'm going to get something out about that to you later today. So hopefully you're all seeing the slides now. We good to go? Okay. So I just mentioned that the scholarship winners, hopefully you got that. We will be sending the details. And then the reminder that there's still time, a few days left to help the students get all their applications complete. So I'd like to ask a question, and there's a poll. If you look over on your control panel, there's a poll question there. If you select that pull down, and there's a question that says, our office routinely, maybe every 1 to 2 weeks, check web grants to identify students who still need support with their FAFSA so that we can address that. I just want to see, sort of anonymously, how many people are actually checking web grants periodically to update and see where your students are still missing in action, so to speak, and just to get a sense of how that's working for people. And then we could talk, I'd like to talk about it a minute, see, we're still doing all the learning and debriefing and what we can do that might work better, what's actually useful and so forth. So could you answer either yes or no on that poll question? There it is. Oh, all the question didn't come out on there, but you see the question on the screen, I hope. Okay, so I got 57% yes and 43% no. And that screen should not be there. So that means that some of you have checked maybe just for the sake of sending in the report, or maybe you're just getting clear access. I know that took a little while, and there were some challenges in some cases to get all the access in. So, but 57% of you said you've been checking it regularly. I wonder if someone can raise your hand and tell me about that experience and how that's been helpful to you. Anyone ready to share something there? I'm going to unmute you all so that you can talk, and I will try to. Not unmuting. Sorry, I'm in trouble with the mute thing. Okay. Laura, I'm going to unmute you. Thank you. You want to share something about what you gained from the web grants or how it's worked for you? You're unmuted now on my end.
Can
if you're okay.
Can
yes,
you hear
great.
me?
Thank you. Got it.
Okay.
Yes, you're here.
Awesome. Unfortunately, my higher up did not decide to have our own web grants account, so it's actually been fairly tricky for me to gather that information, and I'm hoping that that decision will change before next year. But we have a counselor at our district level that has been doing the Reach Higher this year on a grant, and I have worked closely with her so that she has been checking web grants for me, and every 1 to 2 weeks I will ask her to check to see, have my students' GPA been uploaded and have they been awarded, and she sends me a list. And so we're just keeping I'm keeping a spreadsheet, and we're just checking those off. And so it's been a little bit of a runaround to try and get that accomplished, but we have been able to do that without having our own web grants account, which I don't suggest as the best possible way of doing things, but we're getting the job done.
Great. And it sounds like it really has been important for that access that you've been able to get through the counselor to be able to identify the students. That's been important. Yeah? Is that right?
Yes, it has. And unfortunately, at a certain point through this process, her view of being able to see different things for different students, they changed her web grants account, and so at a certain point she wasn't able to see the information that we needed, so we just kind of had to go through other channels, and I found it just very tricky, but I felt it was necessary to make sure that we didn't drop the ball and just say, well, yep, they've completed their FAFSA, we're all good. I really wanted to kind of follow through and make sure that those GPAs were uploaded. And in that process, we found that a charter school in our county is under an elementary school, but they actually service high school students in this charter school, and they were completely unaware that they needed to have a web grants account, had never uploaded GPAs. And so through that process, I was able to find that out, connect them to our counselor that I had been working with at the district level. She was able to get them their information to have a web grants account, and they were able to successfully upload that GPA, because it wasn't just for our foster youth senior. I'm sure they had other seniors this year that needed that done, that their FAFSA was just kind of hanging out there, but nothing had been done. So then they sent that appeal in, letting them know that the reason why they were just now after March 2nd, this happened within like the last 3 weeks, I believe, that GPA was uploaded. But that would have never been caught for that charter school if we hadn't have been really proactive in following up with our counselor. That then I was like, well, why is that student not showing? I called the charter school and I spoke with the director, and they said, web grants? What's web grants? GPA verification? What's that? So it's crazy to think that that still happens, but I think it does, because the reality is that they are a charter school that services K through 12, but their charter school is under an elementary school district that they didn't, I think, really have to think about that high school element.
Wow, that's a tremendous thing that you were able to catch. And I've heard similar kinds of things in another county or two. Haven't gotten the complete details yet in the outcome that you just got, but that's huge. And I have also wondered that it's not, in some of these schools, it's not just the foster youth that aren't getting served, it's all of the students. So kudos on that. and that I think there's an interesting amount of cleanup that has been happening as a result of the Foster Youth Challenge in terms of that, the school connection with CSAC in several cases. That's great to hear. And I'm wondering if anyone else can share a particular story that might help Laura make the case with her administrator as to why she should have direct access to web grants. I know you're making the case beautifully anyway, Laura, but it's always nice to have stories from other lands about the success or how important and valuable it's been, what it's meant. But boy, just that, catching that charter school and how many students that serves over the years is a pretty good case to be made. Anybody else? Thanks, Laura, so much. Appreciate hearing about that. And also want to acknowledge you for your determination, even without direct access. You made sure you could find out what was happening with the students. So good luck on direct on your own account. Anybody else? Anything on this count, on the value of it, or anything we can do or need to know to help get you the access that you should have? I'm thinking that next FAFSA challenge, it's going to be required that the information come through web grant. That's just a little preview because of the importance of having that actual verification and not just a verbal sort of, oh yeah, I submitted it kind of thing. Okay, I don't have any more hands raised, so I'm going to move along. Here are a few things I just learned about in the last week or two. Sorry about that if that just flips the screen. And just wanted to share, since I have a chance to give a bunch of you this information, we'll be putting it into all the FAFSA challenge information and getting it out in other ways. But here's a quick heads up. The Chafee page, when a student goes into the web grants account, and they go to look at the page that gives them information about their Chafee award, it will not show that their FAFSA is complete until June. Turns out CSAC doesn't match the GPA with the Chafee on that screen until June, when they download close to the award date. So one of our colleagues was doing a workshop with a bunch of students in LA last week, and they were worried because it didn't show that their FAFSA was complete. But the next bullet item points out that if you're at the student sort of homepage, at the place where you get verification that the FAFSA is submitted and complete, it does show it there, so that they don't have that interface with the Chafee page set up to automatically populate. So if you've run into that, I just wanted you to know it and that you don't get worried or unduly, upset about that. So those, and then there's also the fact that the FOSS's dependency verification matches are only made once a month. So if a student goes in at, early in the month and the verification match happens on the 15th or 20th, I don't even know what the date is, it may not show up. And again, it could create a little concern that, well, I submitted it, why doesn't it show? Remind them also, if you're ever in a situation, they can always call the student helpline so that they don't need to get overly stressed out about these things. But it also just helps to pass the information along. These are the tidbits you can be giving counselors and your ILP coordinators and people who work on the FAFSA. Also, anybody who is submitting a California DREAM Act application has to complete a paper Chafee application. They cannot do it online. It's an unfortunate barrier right now, but that is the way it is so far. And then I wanted to mention that the Chafee is awarded in the summer, and this is another reason to encourage the students to get their personal web grants account set up, because they can then check to see if they've been awarded a Chafee. And if they are, then they're a step ahead of the game. They can contact the financial aid department at the college and find out what that disbursement process is, because it varies from college to college. The funds won't be available in July, but when they find out that they have a Chafee, they can start getting into that procedure of connecting with the financial aid office, finding out what the procedure is, what are they going to need to do, and when, so that they're really at the front, on top of it. It's probably going to be a paper check, meaning they'll need a checking account to deposit it. So those are the things they'll want to find out, and it's helpful to have a little time before the Chafee money is actually available. I'm sorry, is the poll still hanging you out now? I see that you don't see. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't close the poll. My apologies. I haven't done that a whole lot, and I'm showing my technical weakness here. So this is the only screen that I went to while I was talking about these Chafee details. Thank you, Laura, for putting that in the question box. So I'll give you a chance to look that over. Those were the things I was talking about. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Now I just learned, I wish we had known this at the beginning. I'm sorry we didn't. Amazing what you learn when you get into things. But at any rate, we just learned that there is actually a late GPA appeal process with web grants. You may have already known about it. I hadn't heard about it until we found out that there was a memo that went out from CSAC to financial aid administrators and high school counselors. So maybe many of your counselors know about this. They do actually allow students to appeal if their GPA was not in place on March 2nd, that priority deadline for Cal Grants. It is due Wednesday, May 16th. I know this is short notice. But I put the link here, and it's easy. Just go on CSAC's site and ask, search for appeal, GPA appeal, and it'll show up. And just a screenshot of the form. You're still not seeing the screen? You don't see the slide that says web grants, GPA appeal? No. So then there's something wrong with this. All right, let me go back and try this. Okay, now I think you're seeing it. Okay. Again, my apologies. Do you want me to go back to this screen? It's just to refresh what I was saying about the Chafee and the Student Web Grants account. And the slides will be available on our FAFSA Challenge web, or actually, and also on the resource page that I just sent the link to you all. So you need to look at this again. So up until next Wednesday, if a student's GPA was not in the system, in the CSAC system, they can file an appeal and ask CSAC to still give them, put them in the pool. And we've gotten some tips from folks in the know about how to do this. Note that the focus is always on factors beyond the student's control. They don't consider it enough to say, oh, I didn't know it needed to be in by March 2nd. They still hold the student responsible for making sure that the GPA is in. But I put it down at the last of the list, but in bold. Definitely make sure that in their appeal form, it mentions that the student is a foster youth. And of course, you know, we're talking to them and going to work on getting an extra consideration for foster youth because we know how often they don't have access to the information that they need. But here are some tips for making that appeal. Mention that the FAFSA was filed by the March 2nd deadline, that the school did not submit the GPA in a timely manner. Maybe the school submitted a weighted GPA instead of the unweighted GPA. Or if the student was not aware of Cal Grant eligibility or thought that they would not be eligible. I'm sorry, I meant to take this next item out because I'm not sure what this means, but thought that the school would take care of it, but didn't realize it because of less than 24 credits. I think what that means is if they got less than 24 credits at that school, that the school didn't know that they needed to submit it. That they filed the form on time, but it was lost in the mail. These are the kinds of explanations that CSAC takes into consideration. There were typos on the form, such as if it was the wrong social security number or a misspelling in a name, that the form was not signed, then it would have been. So those would be standard kinds of explanations of why they would accept an appeal on a late GPA submission. So they have a deadline of the 16th because you know, they're starting to process the applications for the award announcement. So I know it's late this time, but we'll make sure this information is readily available in the future, and everyone can be making sure everyone else knows about that. And the high school counselors should have gotten this operations memo from CSAC, so they would have this information already. And you know, we're working on this bill, SB 940 this year, that would eliminate that March 2nd deadline for foster youth. So if we're successful, then this won't even be a problem, although they still will have to make sure the GPA is in and verified. Just want to remind you of the CSAC institutional support line and their email address and my email address and phone number. That's all the information that I have to share today. Don't know if you have any other questions or anything you want to share. And Adrian, I'm sorry if you didn't get the email with that link to the resource page. I thought you were in my email list. I'll send it to you as soon as I get off this call and make sure that you're on that list. You know how hard it is. These email lists can be tricky to maintain. The FAFSA challenge started small and then kept adding folks. Sorry if I didn't get you on that list. I will send that to you. So we are trying to just generate one page where all of the things that we've been doing are in the resources that we have, the worksheets and so on, will be on that page on our website. Anything else, anybody? Laura, no, is that your old hand raised? Yeah. Okay, well, that's all I have. Short but sweet. If you don't have any other questions or any other comments, anything you want to share, I'd love to hear from you all. Then I'm going to call it a great Friday, great FAFSA Challenge TA call. This is the end of these calls for now anyway. We'll see what we've decided to do in the fall. Congratulations to you all for working hard on this. I think there are tremendous thousands of students being served that might not have been otherwise. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. And I'll be in touch very soon. And I'll see many of you at our meeting on May 30th. Take care.